So then the hometown team came to us and said, listen, we're looking for an affiliate. We think America's eventually going to really embrace soccer, football. So we started looking at Major League Soccer and United Soccer Leagues, the minor leagues, and sat down over a table like this one day and just went, you know what, why don't we start a team ourselves? How hard can it be?
Welcome to the Peakality Podcast, your new favorite spot for unlocking the best version of yourself. Ready to level up your life? We've got you. We're all about blending technology with human wisdom and the drive to be better, personally and professionally. Each week we dig into the real stuff, strategies, tools, and mindsets that cut through the noise and help you thrive. No fluff, just practical insights from experts, thought leaders, and people who've been there, done that. And we're here to break it all down into easy steps. Whether you're kicking off a fresh start or a physician seeking to inspire your patients, we've got stories, tips, and tricks to inspire growth in each area of life. Your peak potential's calling, starting right now. Hit subscribe, join our crew, and let's move forward today. Today, I'm truly honored to be joined by someone who has left an incredible mark, not just on sports, but community itself, Kay Rawlins. Kay is a co-founder of Orlando City Soccer Club and currently serves as Senior Vice President of Community Relations. She leverages the power of sports to change lives, strengthen neighborhoods, and create opportunities where they're most needed. Her journey spans continents, careers, and challenges, from starting life in the UK to pioneering a professional soccer club in the United States, all while championing causes close to her heart, like education, health, and equality. She believes that sports aren't just about competition. It's a catalyst for transformation, connection, and hope. Today, we talk about how she's built something from the ground up, the moments of resilience that shaped her, and why she believes we all have the power to leave a legacy that matters. Welcome, Kay. So let's just start from the beginning. Can you just tell us, you're from England and you moved here to start the soccer program. Can you tell us what life was before you moved here and what made you decide to move to America to start soccer when soccer wasn't really even a embraced, I would say, sport in America at that time?
Sure, I'll try and keep this short. So I grew up in a town called Stoke-on-Trent. It's right in the middle of England. It's actually from a region called the Potteries. So it's where, back in the day, all the china and crockery and everything that went everywhere was made. So Josiah Wedgwood and Ainsley and Colport and all those people are from there. Very working class town. I'm one of 5 kids, the eldest girl. So had all the battles. On behalf of my sisters, you're welcome. So that was, but a wonderful, warm, loving family. So feel very fortunate with that. Love sports at school. I played everything going, field hockey, swimming, netball. I ran track, tennis, not soccer.
Oh, wow.
Which everyone found really funny. But back then, it just wasn't a sport for girls, which I played because I had 2 brothers, but it wasn't a sport for girls. So loved sport, dropped out of school at 17, was tired of all the academic stuff and wanted to get on with life and earn some money and have some fun in life. So I joined a bank and I worked there for 10 years, met my husband, had 2 children, and was fortunate in the early years to be able to stay home. I loved being at home with those 2 little ones. And when my youngest was 3, answered an ad in a preschool for a volunteer one morning a week, and I could take my daughter with me. So that was the start of my preschool career, who knew? So one morning turned into 2, turned into 3 days, and the owner of the preschool, and it was a private preschool in a beautiful Georgian house in a place called Shrewsbury, said, you know, I want to retire, I'm looking for someone to take over the business. If I pay for you to go to college, will you go? So
Oh my
so age 31 with 2 kids and already a part-time job, I finally went to college.
Wow.
Which I honestly, looking back, was the right time for me, because I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do when I left school. So when I did go at 31, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I needed a degree in early childhood education. I needed a business management degree, so off I went. Ended up owning the preschool, and then starting a second one, very much geared at working families. People at the original preschool were like, well, I wish you would open at 8, or I wish we could leave them till 6 p.m. So we opened a whole new nursery that is still, this is 25 years later, still going strong, still has some of the same staff, which is incredible to me. But yeah, but I was then at that point of, I'm not enjoying this piece of it anymore, because it's admin and that's not my forte. That's not the piece of the business that I enjoyed. And it coincided with a high school sweetheart coming back into my life. I hadn't seen him since we left school. He'd become very successful. He'd grown a business in Europe and then moved it to America. It was very much based on the tech companies, which all the headquarters were here in America. So he'd moved over, had become very successful, made a lot of money, and had invested in our hometown soccer team, Stoke City, who were in the Premiership back then. We've been demoted since then, but that's another story. So we met up, realized there was something still there. So we had a very difficult year of, what are we going to do about this? In the middle of all of that, I sold the business, and he got an opportunity then in Austin, in Texas, and we made the decision that that's what we would do. We would move. So it was tough, obviously, leaving my hometown. My kids were in college, so that was hard. But yeah, we moved to Austin, and so the first couple of years there, obviously I couldn't work. I didn't have a green card. I was working towards it, so that was where my first journey into philanthropy started, because I started volunteering for nonprofits. It's the only work I could do. And I learned such a lot in those years that I was there. I'd never even kind of delved into that world before. And so then the hometown team that he's now a part owner of came to us and said, listen, we're looking for an affiliate. We think America's eventually going to really embrace soccer, football, and we want to get in, and we're looking for an affiliate. So we started looking, and we started looking at Major League Soccer and United Soccer Leagues, the minor leagues, and sat down over a table like this one day and just went, you know what, why don't we start a team ourselves? How hard can it be? And it just seemed so obvious at the time. We were both, we'd both sold businesses, we were both entrepreneurial, and we're looking for a project. And this seemed like a great idea at the time. So we went to United Soccer Leagues and, did all the kind of negotiations and everything, and we started the team in Austin. We then had 3 years of just hitting your head against a brick wall is the only way I can describe it. So many obstacles in the way. We didn't have help from government, civic, the media were, lukewarm. We weren't really getting the crowds, even though we thought there was this, and there is a massive youth soccer movement there, but that does not translate apparently.
How many teams were in the U.S. at this time?
So in Major League Soccer, there were 14, I think.
Okay.
16 maybe. But United Soccer Leagues, which is they're actually based in Tampa, they had a more robust system where they had different leagues. They had a league that ran just through the summer for college players who wanted to keep up their soccer skills through the summer. And it was obviously a much easier entry level in terms of money-wise. So it just seemed like if we're going to start, let's kind of start there and see where it goes. But we struggled from the beginning. We couldn't find, in those 3 years that we had the team there, we played in a different stadium every year.
Oh, wow. And this is in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And it was high school football stadiums with all the other lines. And then the other kicker is no alcohol. You're on school property.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that says it, like, that doesn't, it seems as though alcohol goes hand in hand with soccer.
Kinda, sorta.
With the fans, yes,
yeah,
exactly.
So that was really difficult. So then it was, what are we going to do about this?
Sure.
And, you know, we did a lot of soul searching, and we still believed that we had all the ingredients. We were just in the wrong place. So we went back to United Soccer Leagues and said, look, we're done in Austin. It's not working. We're losing loads of money. You know, we're out as far as that's concerned. So they gave us 3 or 4 prospects. They said, we don't want to lose you. We also think, you know what you're doing and that you've got all the ingredients. And so Orlando was one of the places on their list. And I can tell you, I was not immediately jumping up and down and going, yeah, let's go to Orlando. Because, you know, like a lot of Brits, you have that stereotype of what Orlando is. And it's only when you live here that you recognize the richness that Orlando is.
Absolutely. And
the theme parks that everyone, you know, knows Orlando by are actually not in Orlando.
Yes.
You know, they're miles away, and
Exactly.
if you don't want to have anything to do with them, you don't need to. Yeah. And so we flew into Orlando. We'd got a few people we were going to meet with, and Mayor Dyer was one of them. But and he's my ex-husband now, but I'll give him this, he's super smart. We stayed in Winter Park. So that was his way of convincing me. You know, it's a bit like buying a house. When you walk in, it's like, can I imagine myself here?
Yes.
And it was the same thing. It was, can I imagine myself living here? And yes, absolutely.
Yes.
You know, Winter Park's a jewel. It's feels very continental.
Yes.
You know, so that was an easy sell.
Yeah.
But I think
and it's 45 minutes away from the park.
Yes.
So you're not even close to where the parks are. It's a completely different atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like it's own, like you said, little jewel.
It is. And so a lot of things happened pretty quickly after that. And you know, as I say, I give a shout out to Mayor Dyer because he believed from the beginning, and he really wanted another professional team here. And at this point, we'd also decided go big or go home. So the very first press conference in 2010, we said, we're a minor league team right now, but we're going to be major league in 5 years.
Oh, wow.
We were.
That's amazing.
So, you know what,
Wow.
speak it out into the universe.
Yes.
and then make it happen.
Yes.
You know, and I think it gave us that goal, and everyone who came on board afterwards, that you know, they had to buy in to the same dream.
Yes.
And it was a dream. And like I say, this city just put its arms around us and said, come on in.
Amazing. That's beautiful.
It was.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the business community. It was obviously the fans, the media. There was a few, obviously, skeptics who were like, this is never going to work. Soccer's failed here in this state before.
Yeah.
You know, you seem like good people, but, you know, it's never going to work.
What do you think was the most challenging part of that process?
I think, obviously, convincing people to, number one, to come to a game. We knew, and we had a coach at the time who'd been, he's in the Everton Hall of Fame. He'd played in, you know, many, many storied clubs. And he was our head coach, which is kind of crazy, again, when I think back. Like, what was he even thinking? But again, he believed in the dream and that America was going to start to love this sport in the same way the rest of the world does. So we knew we were going to have a good product on the field. And so we knew when we brought people to a game, they'd be like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And they would want to come again. So that was one of the biggest challenges, was just getting the word out there. Yeah. I mean, our players at the time, I mean, I wrote a clause in their contract that said they had to do, I think it was 28 hours each of community service. So
amazing. That's
so I had them out at everything.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and we had a marketing, I will call her a guru because she is phenomenal. She's actually at Nashville, their team right now. I've never known anyone who could come up with so many incredible ideas. Magnet Monday, you know, when magnets started appearing on cars all over the city, that was her. And we made it, you could only get them on a Monday. So guess what? You've created scarcity, and now everyone wants one.
Yes.
You know, they were stolen off my car, like, I don't even know how many times. 3 in one day is my record.
Oh my
gosh. Yes. I still keep a supply in my car now.
That's great though. Like, what a great way to create buzz and to create, you know, that scarcity of, and people wanting to engage on that's really cool.
Yeah.
Great idea.
And I think, you know, it was always remembering there's no club without the fans.
Yes.
And so when we, for instance, when we did get the announcement that we were going to be a major league franchise, MLS were like, yeah, you know, we'll do a press conference. And we're like, what? Yeah. No, we're having a party and we are inviting the fans. And they're like, well, you know, you'll miss the global press because you're doing it in the evening, and that means, you know, England, well, Europe's asleep. And we're like, we're having a party.
Yeah, that's great.
The fans are what got us to where, you know, they were the ones who came in their droves, and they were the ones who believed in us. So it was for them. Yeah. So we had, you know, the governor and everyone came, and we had Cheyenne Saloon, which as a Brit was like every cowboy film I'd ever seen. Walking in, I'm like, just, you know, I'm expecting a shot to come flying along the bar.
It definitely has that presence.
Yeah,
100%.
It's such a cool venue.
Very cool.
In a kind of full circle moment, that's where Orlando announced that when the World Cup came in '94, that Orlando were going to be one of the host cities. And that's when they announced it in the Cheyenne Saloon as well.
Amazing.
So we had that kind of really cool.
Yes.
And we had a balloon drop and like purple beer, and there was we'd shut Church Street down. There was a big party outside. And then I guess the other kind of big event where the fans got involved was when we did the groundbreaking on the new stadium. We shut Church Street down again. I feel like it's a thing.
Yes.
But we marched with the mayor and the commissioners, our players, our fans, smoke and banners and flags and everything. We marched all the way to the stadium, and Jones
Which is about a mile.
Yes, not even.
Yeah.
No. And then Jones High School band were there to greet us. And then the same amazing Teresa Tatlong-Hari had flown in 25 tons of purple sand.
Oh my gosh.
And we had all these little buckets, little clear buckets made, like a paint can with a lid on, with our logo on. And everyone got to take a scoop home.
Amazing.
And
Great idea.
I see them in offices all over town when I go for meetings. I have one on my desk. Like, everyone still has them.
Yes.
So yeah, she's amazing.
That's really cool. And I love the consistency of the lack of, you know, traditional ness that you embrace. Everything from not, you know, from when you're 17, you moved away and decided that you want to start your career and didn't go to school until you were 31, and married, you knew what you wanted. But everything that you've done in this story so far is just you marching to the beat of your own drum, and you saying, well, this is the way that you are supposed to do it. You're supposed to bring international press in, and you're like, no, this is how we're going to do it. And I love that you have just embraced like who you are and how you don't follow that process of tradition, but rather like following your gut and intuition and knowing what's right and listening to your fans and the people and what really matters. And I think that is just really evident in everything that you've done and the impact that that's making along that process. Like, just cheers to like just acknowledge that. It's really cool. So, and I'm also really curious because you have been in, you followed the traditional banking system. Then you became an entrepreneur, a businesswoman, and continue that entrepreneur mindset. How did you find yourself in a role now that the soccer league has, kind of underway? Then what did you find your role to be as now there's an establishment, there's no longer that chase, so to speak, of what became your role at that point?
So I think for me, the social and community aspect was always the driver for me. Other people are all about, obviously you've got to bring money in, it's a business. I wouldn't say that's my forte. Mine is people and connection and community. And I think the biggest, we're talking about challenges, I think one of the biggest ones was that we knew we were going to put the stadium in Paramore. And we had a lot of people going, what? Are you crazy? Have you been to Paramore? Have you any idea? And we're like, yes, we have been going into Paramore since the very beginning, since 2011, and doing workshops and clinics and soccer programs for the kiddos. So now we're about to announce that we're going to land a big old stadium right in their doorstep. So,
and to be clear for anyone that's not familiar, Paramore is a neighborhood that's next to downtown. Mm-hmm. That's predominantly African American, and you want to come in and build a stadium in the middle of their neighborhood.
Yeah, and it tells you all you need to know that the dividing line is called Division Avenue.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
And
exactly.
because that's what used to happen, and so yeah. So for me, my role became listening. So we would go to all these neighborhood meetings, and people would stand up and obviously speak out against the stadium, and I would be there to reassure, to help them understand that yes, there will be disruption, and no, it won't all be good. However, for the most part, this is going to have a positive impact. And when you look at what's happened since Valencia and UCF have moved in, those kids in that neighborhood now can see college. They can touch college. It's a living, breathing thing now. Businesses have started to come in, and there's 20-odd thousand people there almost every other weekend. So there's, and again, I am an optimist, but I'm not a person with the rose-colored spectacles. Of course, there have been bad things that have happened. People have been, rents have gone up, and we know those kinds of things. We've just tried to be there in the background mitigating. Mm-hmm. And one of my projects became, how do we honor the history of Paramore somehow in the building of the stadium? So I put together a committee. I think there was 14 of us, and it was people who lived in Paramore, worked in Paramore, had a presence in Paramore that people respected. So we had Dr. Spooney, we had Dr. Walters, who was the principal of Jones High School for many years. I relied on her to keep the meetings in order because it used to go, they'd start reminiscing. It was amazing. So many cool stories. But the idea was, it's on you. How do you want to do it? Do you want, steps on the floor that have like writing on them about Paramore? Do you want something on the side of the stadium. You know, what is this is, and they were very, you know, in the beginning, a lot of skepticism. Oh, you say all this, but you'll never do it. And then after maybe the fourth meeting, because I think they were like, oh, they'll have a few meetings and then we'll never hear from her again. And I'm like, okay, you know, what are we going to do? And so we decided we were going to put 6 panels on the side of the stadium that would have a little bit of history about Paramore, and then would honor, you know, people who had had a huge impact on that area, maybe a couple of buildings that were important. And that's what happened. And, you know, it's on the east side of the stadium, it's still there. And I think as much as anything, it won me all those advocates as well, because they were like, oh yeah, you know, they when they say they're going to do something, they do it. Yes. And that was hugely important to me. And so there's all kinds of people who are celebrated there. And then I learned so much, you know, what a thriving area it was, until desegregation, which was obviously a great thing. Yeah. But what it meant was a lot of the richer families who lived in Paramore left, because now they could live anywhere they wanted. They weren't made to live in an African American township. So that was kind of the downfall in a way for a few years of what happened to Paramore. But the stories they had were amazing. And what I hadn't realized was that, you know, the Wells built, there was a casino, the South Street Casino, and when especially jazz performers had performed in, you know, the white hotels in Orlando, the artists couldn't stay. They had to come to Paramore. That's when the real party would start. Yes. So we have put a whole list of people like Ella Fitzgerald and Ray Charles and people who stayed in Paramore. So we wanted to celebrate that piece too.
I love that.
So I think for me, you know, my role became, how do we become the best neighbor that we can be? This is our neighborhood now. So how do we get involved? How do we keep showing up and be consistent? And we didn't need to be showy about it. No. We just wanted to keep being a good neighbor. And so, you know, some like New Image Youth Center, who is very near and dear to my heart, you know, we can see into their backyard from our stadium. So we've done so many things with them over the years, to the point of, you know, whether it's mentorship or bringing the kids on a tour of the stadium. People don't realize there's like 200 people who work behind the scenes in any sports club. You know, they see the players and the coaches. What they don't realize is there's people who have to pay the wages. You know, there's people who have to make the merchandise. Someone has to make sure there's referees on a game day. There are so many jobs in a sports team, and when they come in, their eyes are like out of their heads when they see the inner workings and you know what's going on. So. Yeah, because you show up and you're just having a good time. You don't think about all the logistics and all the people and all the stuff that goes into you just having that good time. Yeah. And it is such a good time when you go. I mean, it is a blast to go. That's for sure. And the team's amazing. I mean, both the men and women's team. I mean, the women's team have come such a long way, and you know, your involvement with the women's team and their success. I mean, you started off obviously with the men's and as a minor league, and then to the major, and now you've got a women's team. I mean, there's been so much growth that you know, I think that one thing also is for sure with you stepping in and embracing your role and working with the community. Also, you have continued to have that entrepreneur mindset with the growth of the team and also expanding it into the women's league. It's just really, really, really cool how you've continued to expand and embrace all the opportunities that you are now allowing women to have in sports and the growth of the women's league. Can you tell us a little bit more about like your involvement with that
with all that you're doing with the soccer team and with both men and women's especially?
Yeah, I mean, obviously for me, I have daughters, I have granddaughters now as well, who are in England, so I'm so happy to see England finally getting on board as well with the women's game. But I think, you know, just in general, around the world, women's sports are finally having the spotlight on them, as they absolutely should. So it was important when we started the team that we were going to have a women's team as well. And you only have to look at the success of the national team, you know, to know that there's little girls want to aspire to that. I think the next piece of growth that will happen is the academy model. So it's happened now, or it's still happening with some clubs. It goes on all around the world. You want a pipeline. You want homegrown players. You know, we've got a guy in Orlando City, Alex Freeman, who came up through our system and has now been playing for the men's national team.
Oh, wow.
So he's a homegrown, you know, there's that pride, you know, that you have someone from your, and how much must that mean to him to play, you know, for the team he grew up supporting. Like, it's so cool. And so we want, obviously, that to happen for the women as well. It will come. We've done a lot of big partnerships lately, one with the YMCA, but all the sports schools, academies, affiliates that we have now, the girls' teams are all wearing the Pride logo and not the city one.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, which is, for them, obviously, they love it. Like, they're so excited. And they have such great role models in the women's game to, you know, for something to aspire to be. I think for me, one of my roles is obviously always advocating for them to have more money. But they've been doing pretty well on that themselves. But also to provide opportunities and for them to start thinking about what are they going to do when they finish playing. Very few of them are going to be able to just retire and sail off into the sunset. They're going to have to get a second job, and they're going to be in their 30s. So for me, it's about helping them make connections while they're here. We know everybody in this city, and everyone in this city has said, absolutely, if they want to come job shadow, if they want to talk to somebody about what it's like to work in this industry, come on in.
I love that. That's great.
So and giving them other development opportunities, whether it's, you know, some financial literacy help, because heck, we all need that. You know, and especially for them, you know, they don't understand about credit scores or how to get a mortgage or why you should have a pension. You know, those are important things for them. And because they're so focused on this one particular area, which is training and playing, sometimes that, you know, falls by the wayside. So for us, it's how else can we help them? And the league is also now, under Commissioner Berman, who's doing an amazing job, is also growing and putting in place programs as well. And I just love seeing it, that, you know, I know in those early years, you know, the girls team the Pride started in 2016. There were some teams who didn't have changing facilities where they trained.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was dire. And the travel would be terrible. You know, you always have to provide a hotel for the visiting teams, and they would go to some horrendous hotel and
like
go, we are not staying here. So fortunately, those days are behind us. There's more investment. The latest collective bargaining agreement meant, you know, the salaries went way up. It's still not perfect, and there's still a ways to go, but it is progress, and that's always what you want to see.
That's, lots of progress, to say the least. I mean, as far as they've come, it's just, it's really cool and inspiring and amazing. What do you think has been your biggest, has there been like a moment in which you've had like like a turning point or a challenge or an obstacle in which just really kind of made you take a step back to evaluate and kind of where you were?
Yeah, there's a couple, but I would say the biggest one was the Pulse shooting. I mean, as a mother, waking up to a text that says, "Mom, I'm okay," and you're like, "What do you mean?" It's gonna make me feel.
Yeah.
Because my kids had all frequented gay bars with their friends.
Yeah.
And just finding out what had happened was shocking, obviously. But then we were the first kind of big event that was going to happen. It was the weekend after Pulse, and we'd spoken with City of Orlando, and we were like, should we cancel the game? Like, what help?
Yeah.
What should we do? And they said, no, absolutely have the game. People are looking for opportunities to come together. So we started kind of working on, well, what will this look like? So we obviously had the beginning of the game, we had everyone down on the field, we had first responders, we had some of the Pulse survivors, the staff, a lot of people from the LGBTQ community, all down on the field with a huge big banner. And then we designed, you've seen the patch, that like heart that has all the different colors in it. We'd made t-shirts with Orlando United. The Magic asked if they could have the design. They sold them. So between us, we probably made almost $1 million in t-shirt sales. The players walked out. They had a special patch, including San Jose Earthquakes, which is who we played, which obviously also got auctioned off after the game. And we'd had to go to FIFA and ask special permission to, the players came out to All You Need Is Love.
Oh.
Yeah, it was.
Yes. Oh.
It was really moving. And then in one of the stands, we'd put 49 rainbow balloons.
Oh my gosh.
Which now, when you come to our stadium, we have 49
yes.
rainbow seats. And that was just our message to the world, if you like, that you are safe here.
Yes.
Like, you are included, you are welcome. And I think the way our fans showed up, if you see any footage from that day or any photographs, I've never seen so many rainbow flags in my life. And then the supporters themselves, I guess through social media, had organized themselves and said, if you're in this section, wear red. If you're in this section, wear orange. If you're in this section. So the whole stadium was a rainbow, which was, and so definitely a turning point in terms of wanting to do more for that community, and putting our hand up and above the parapet in a way. We actually won the Stuart Scott Inspire Award the following year. Teresa and I flew to LA, and I met George Takei, which was amazing. We won this award, and the whole event was amazing because it wasn't, obviously we won the actual award, but there were so many other examples of teams from all the different sports, and it was learning about what they do in their community. And it was, it was this, like, fill my cup. Like, this was so cool. And we got a $100,000 check, which we immediately gave back to the LGBTQ community. We chose like 4 different avenues to put that money back into the community. But yeah, I think that was a turning point, because then it meant, okay, how do we continue with this? We don't want it to be, oh, it's June, let's wave some flags and say, yeah, we did Pride. It was, how do we now work with organizations all throughout Central Florida and lend them our voice and our support? And that's what's continued to this day. And we sponsor the Pride Parade, and you know, we get involved in so many different ways. So I think that was a real turning point for sure for me.
And yeah, it was such a significant time.
It was.
For everyone.
And the way Orlando came together.
Yes.
So
100%.
incredibly proud of how this city responded.
Yes.
And the rest of the world. I mean, the messages that came in were amazing.
Amazing.
You know, not that you want that, you don't want to be in that club, if you like, as a city that's had a mass shooting.
Yes.
But I was incredibly proud to be.
Absolutely. Well, it really brought us together as a community. I think it highlighted the fact that Orlando does have a, large community that for people that, just haven't really had a place that they could call home. Yeah. And I think that that's what Orlando has done a really beautiful job with.
And I think it made a lot of people look inward, including a lot of the churches who realized, were you actually being good to your neighbor? Right. No, you weren't. Mm-hmm. And I also think it's leadership from the top as well. Yes. And when you see in city and county governments that there are people from the LGBTQ community who are included and welcomed and given a voice, then that trickles down through the rest of the community as well.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the reasons why I do love Orlando is how they really embrace.
We're a bubble.
Yeah, absolutely. Surprisingly, I mean, I think that a lot of people, again, like you said, that judge Orlando for the parks, but there's a whole other side to it that that people don't realize that's there, and that I think with that tragedy, it really did bring people together in such a beautiful way, and to really evaluate how they are supporting one another. Because we are, I think, a melting pot city for sure.
We are, and I know when we were evaluating whether to even move the team here, that absolutely was a factor. I think every city likes to say they're a melting pot. I don't know that they all can claim it in the same way that we can.
Sure, yeah.
If you look at our team, so there was a game last night, and there was a couple of kiddos that I was talking with, and I said, if you look over there to the wall, which is where the most passionate, wonderful supporters are that jump and sing and play drums and everything else, I said, if you look over there, look at all those flags. And I said, that represents our players. I said, so they can look up there and see their home flag. And I said, how inclusive is that? I mean, that's so cool.
It is,
that they get to feel welcomed in that way. But it also shows, again, the diversity.
Absolutely.
So, that's one of the reasons I love Orlando. I do.
Yes, that's wonderful. So if you were you've had such a beautiful background of just amazing leadership when it really comes down to it. If you were to inspire someone to really just live a life of fullness like you have, and if they're struggling and these obstacles come, like how have you traditionally overcome them, and what techniques or tools do you usually use?
Sure.
Because we all have them, and how do you keep pushing forward when those moments do arise?
Yeah, I think I'm blessed with an optimistic nature, so I definitely think that helps. I am always the person who's the glass half full, and it's going to work out. Even in the dark days in Austin, it's going to be okay. We're going to do this. We're going to make it. So I think there's that, but I also have, obviously my family are hugely important to me, but I also have my family, my group that is around me. I have a girl tribe, but I also have my brunch bunch. I'm about to go away with them for a few days, who are my strength. And a lot of people know, obviously, I went through a very public divorce from the other founder of the team. And I would say, obviously, that was one of the most difficult moments. It was right before we were about to open the stadium. we were known as like the face of the club, and everyone had seen us together, and then all of a sudden, you know, this whole thing happened. And I honestly would never have gotten through it without all those people who didn't just say, "Are you okay?" They would, and I'd say, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then 10 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. Somebody's there with a bottle of wine. "I don't think you're fine. I'm coming in." And time after time, yeah. And then, you know, and I quite often give Kelly Cohen a shout out because she was my absolute rock. And I would wake up every morning, there would be a voice message or a text message or something funny that would make me laugh. Or it would say, "I know you're going to look on Facebook. You are not going to react. You're not going to say anything. You're not going to do anything. You want to be taken seriously in this town, and you cannot be the vengeful ex-wife. So you want to be professional. If you want to stay at the club, you have to show them that you can get through this and that you are not going to drag the club into it either." And so she was like my little Jiminy Cricket on my shoulder every day saying, "Don't say it, don't do it."
Yeah, that's great.
You know,
That's huge.
Yeah, and look what happened, you know, and again, they talk about
It's always best to rise above it.
rise above.
It
And
is.
I have so many
How
people,
hurtful
yeah,
that people it can be, and the just deception
yeah,
and of itself, and how do you not
yeah,
go low and state your get your anger out.
but that's where your tribe come in, because
Yes.
you can scream and shout and badmouth and all the things in private,
Yes.
but then you still present the professional front. And so,
And still being cautious about who you vent to.
oh, of course, of course.
Let's just state that.
Yeah, for sure. But
yeah.
I think, again, we talk about turning points, and so, like I say, it happened in the December, and then in the March, it was when we were opening the stadium, and he decided to step away from the club, and I didn't. And so when we were doing the ribbon cutting, the owner of the team at the time said, "I want you, to do the speaking, not him." And that was a really powerful moment because, the steps of the club, we had the ribbon across there, and so everyone was sat down kind of in the parking lot, if you like. And so he was sat down there, and I was up here.
Yeah, you were.
And I got to speak, and I honestly felt that transfer of power, I guess, of I'm okay.
And we all felt it too. We all felt it.
I was like,
because we all knew what was going on, and then to see you stand up there really was a source of strength for so many women.
Thank you.
And especially with it being so public, I think that it really inspired so many people. Like, how do you carry yourself when on the inside you're screaming, and on the outside you've got your composure? And I think that many people will sometimes think, well, their situation's different, or that they just want to get revenge. But how you conducted yourself and how you stood up there was so significant to so many people. It's definitely, to this day, it's still talked about on how you carry your grace, your leadership, your inspiration. And I just think that, listening to your story from, how you just don't follow the mold, you kind of beat to the, drum of your own. And I think it's beautiful. And it's been very inspiring for so many people. Men and women talk about your grace and your leadership, and the level of respect that people have, and how, especially during those moments, how you've conducted yourself. So,
Thank you. But yeah, it definitely felt like I'm going to be okay.
yes.
That was the feeling after that day. Was
You made everybody else feel that way too. You know what I mean? Like with not just, but just inspiration with what's going on personally.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing for me was the kids. So, I have 2 and 2 blended. and they are so tight still. Like, I just got back from England, and we were all in a house together at the seaside, and then my son just got married in April, and everyone was here. And the two boys, obviously stepbrothers, both worked for the team, lived together, and so that's a huge source of pride for me. That, okay, building the club was amazing, but building this incredible family who love each other, love each other's kids, you know, are so close to each other is just incredible. I love it.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Well, your story is so inspiring from the beginning to the end, and I am so excited to have the story to continue and to have you on the show again, because I know that everything that you're doing, it seems as though that every time I look around, you're doing something really significant, and it's very inspiring, and all the accomplishments that you've had and challenges. It's been just beautiful to watch and witness. So thank you for sharing your stories, and I'm just really grateful to have you on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
Awesome.